So, good evening. What can I say? I should stop talking about the weather, shouldn't I? It's absolutely lovely. So, hope you're all feeling okay. So, tonight is three poses that have all been requested and they go really well together. So, I'm going for some modifications because they are all quite strong poses. So, as always, you do what you can, don't force yourself. Maybe if you struggle with any practice, whether it's these or some other things that we've done, those are maybe the things to practice a little bit more. Maybe, try it for a week and just see the progress that you begin to make. Because I think very often in our own practice, we do what we find comfortable. And we do want that comfort within a pose, obviously, but also we need to stretch ourselves a little bit, go a little bit further. So if you're struggling with something, try the modifications. If I haven't provided something that helps you, just let me know and I'll find a way around it. I like that challenge. That's the joy of teaching for me. Yes, so don't be shy about that. So we'll start with this then. So the poses that I've been asked to do are the chair pose, the eagle pose, and the tortoise pose. So as I say, they're all quite strong. Excuse me. So I do have to give you that reminder as well, just to work at your own level and not to do any harm to yourself. So taking that self-responsibility, I have to put that in for legal purposes. So the tortoise pose then, I thought we'd begin with that one as our warm-up, but as a modification, and then we'll end with that as well, I think. Sorry, I have a bit of hair fever at the minute. So you might want to set up with a chair or a pile of blocks or bolster or something. So we're going to come into releasing the hips. So for this one, this is a lovely position, especially nice for the pregnant ladies. As long as you've got some support here, support is coming up enough for your head to be supported, got all that space for baby to breathe. Or just as an after dinner, if you've eaten too much and you just want to watch TV, nice and open like this, soles of the feet together. So I've got some cushioning under my lower back. I've made sure my head is supported, and that's a fabulous way. And you could sit like this for a long time to really release the hips here. It's a nice way, maybe just to try your breathing practice, so the belly breathing practice, because there's all this space to really let the diaphragm open up. So it's a lovely, lovely position just to come to rest in and warm yourself up with. I must say, when we're doing, just looking at a pose by itself, remember to do some warm-ups first. I've just done some 5 Tibetans and some salutations, so I feel quite warmed up. We can also just take that a little bit lower. So if you've got one of these bolsters, or if you've got a really thick, firm blanket, and just fold that up, this can be really nice. This is probably my very favourite. So position it lengthways. You could roll up a couple of yoga mats too if you've got more than one. Stick your bottom all the way along, so there's no gap there. So your support is buffered up to your bottom. And we're laying back. Again, just pop something under your head because we don't want that sense of the chin sticking up. And you can feel that lovely sense of space in the chest. So that's really nice. I guess if you don't like back bending, you'd have to be careful. You might be better with the first version, leaning against the stool, which I would put against the wall so it can't slide away. And then I've got my ankles crossed. If we're going to do that, just remember to keep alternating which ankle is on top. Or you can come into Baddha Konasana. So we bring the soles of the feet together. So it's just that little bit more effort there in the hips. And when we come to do the tortoise pose later on, we need that space in the hips. So if we haven't got it, that will be one of the obstacles towards coming into the pose. But again, you could really rest like this for a long time. Nice if you're struggling to get to sleep, just to lay here and do some ujjayi breathing or breath counting, belly breathing. all of that flowing together, be a really nice position. And it's releasing the hips as well. Obviously, to come back out, we need to bring the knees together and we roll to the side. Use the strength of your arms to come to sit in. So we can use either of those supports that we've just done, and we can also add our straps. I know quite a few of you have bought these extra long ones. I think these are about 6 foot. They're only about £4 or £5 off the internet if you look for extra long yoga straps. And they've got this nice sturdy D-ring. So we can make the loop with that. You want quite a large loop for this. I feel like I'm on Blue Peter. There's one I should have prepared earlier. Okay, so we make that fairly large. Okay, and then we pop it over us, so everything is in it. Your arms are in it, your bottom's in it. And place the belt around the top of the hips. So not around the fleshy part, but just around the top of the hips. The strap comes on the inside of your knees. You can see that? The inside here of your thighs. And then wraps around your feet there. And just pretend I haven't undone the loop. One of those days today. My push bike, just the gear thing at the back fell off while I was riding as well. So I had a long walk home pushing the bike. Okay, so then we tighten it up. I'm going to lay back. So you can be laying back over your bolster or leaning against the chair. Or if you've got your block, again, slide that up to your buttock. Goes a long ways. And you're lying back on it. So this really opens us up. And then we can just pull on the strap to tighten it up. Soles of the feet together in this position. It's called bound angle. Baddha Konasana. Cobbler's pose is the term. You can place supports under your knees as well. So with that block under your spine, you can see that really is open the chest. So I love these open positions personally. They really, really undo everything that we do in normal life takes us forward. This undoes this. And you could spend, build up your time to a minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, to as long as you feel comfortable. And this is a really good preparation for those asking me for the tortoise pose, or a good alternative for those that are unable to access that pose just yet. Again, when we come out, nice and slow, especially if you've been there a little while, bring the knees in, just shuffle your feet out of your strap. Do not just sit up from here, that's going to hurt your back. We roll to the side so we can take the block away, whichever block we had. Just give yourself a few moments to rest in that position so we can allow the blood flow to recirculate. And then we would use the power of the hands to bring ourselves up. Okay, so that's a nice one to hold for some time. Really is very beneficial for opening the hips. So we're going to come slowly to standing. Obviously, you could just work with that posture. You don't need to do the whole sequence. And if you wanted just to mobilise your spine, because you've just been in quite a deep back bend, maybe some cat-cow, or maybe some sunburst, forearms, sliding the chest forward, sliding the bottom back. Just doing whatever you feel that you need to do to bring your spine back into a nice neutral position, and then slowly find a way to ease back up to standing. So work with what feels really good for you. Okay, so You see my upper body as well for this one, so I might have to keep coming back and forth a little bit. So I've been asked to demonstrate Uttanasana, chair pose, which is really effective for the whole body. Beginning right at the feet, where it's our feet, our calves, our hamstrings, our quads, our buttocks, the major muscle, glutamus maximus, and also the minor muscles, glutamus minimus, which use stabilizers. So excellent for the hips, really good for that. When we flex the hips, this works that psoas muscle that is so important for everything, that gets very tight. So that will be working, that helps to realign the pelvis in a proper direction. It works the laterals, the latissimus dorsi, so the lats here, side of the body. It works the shoulders, shoulder blades, upper shoulders, and the arms. So there's a whole lot of stuff involved with it. So it's just a basic kind of sitting down position. So we begin at the feet. So feet are about a fist distance apart. And everything is pointing forward, and that is really important because we don't want the knees to move out of alignment when we bend the knees. So just check with yourself that your toes are spread, your feet are directly pointing forward, so there's nothing turned out nor turned in, and that as you bend your knees track over the second toe. And as you bend your knees, we're making sure you keep the knees behind your toes at all times. So that means we don't rock forward onto the balls of the feet. We keep more weight there in the heels. So you could just maybe just play around with that, just feeling where your centre of gravity takes you. Just be careful you're not clawing the floor with your feet there. So knees stay behind the toes, weight through the heels. Then we're going to bend the hips. There is a tendency, and I know I do it, so I'm trying not to demonstrate that, but there is a tendency to kind of flex too much, body too close to thighs. So we want to stay quite upright, but it's really quite strong already on the legs. And then we need to be very aware of the lower back. So I'm aware that I'm arching there. So we want that tucking under the tailbone, which automatically lifts the belly. Then the arms reach up, so they're parallel, as though you're holding a beach ball, and your arms are coming alongside your ears. So feet pointing forward, spreading the toes. We bend the knees. The weight stays behind the toes. Your bottom, it's not really swinging back, it's coming down, as though you're on a bar stool. So maybe you could practice that kind of height. And this is a good modification for somebody who doesn't have the strength in their legs just yet, but you've just got that gentle support. So you're not flopping back on it, but you've just got that gentle support. You can check that your knees are behind your toes as well in that position. Okay, so bending the knees. Weight comes back, tuck the tail under a little bit, and sweep the arms up. And then you're just working on rooting down through the feet and lifting up through the arms. So you've got a lovely stretch. Try and avoid shoulders coming up with the arms. So shoulders stay low. And we just focus on the breath. And you might only hold this for 2 breaths. It is very, very powerful, building up to more breathing, more breaths there. So remember, sometimes the breathing feels like you're out of breath or you're struggling to breathe. Take a rest. It's better to do 2 or 3 breaths, come out of the pose and repeat 2 or 3 times than it is to try and hold for 10 breaths and it's all not going so well. So some of the things that can happen in that pose, as I've said already, we can have knees over the toes, which is really going to damage the knees in time. Sometimes we swing the bottom too far back. So then we've not got the space in the side of the body or the chest. Sometimes we can arch the lower back too much, but remember to tuck the tail under. What happens very commonly is the knees start coming in together. So something that you can do for that, you can roll up a thick towel. I'm just going to use a block. We don't want to pop it between the knees though, because that's going to train you to hold it there between the knees. So we bring it up between the thighs, but higher than the knees. So now it is impossible to bring my knees together. It's a good way for those who want to work a little bit stronger as well. So it's excellent for alignment. But if you want to work a little bit stronger, you're really putting the effort there in the thighs to hold that block there. Another thing that we can do, sometimes it's the upper body that needs the assistance. So sometimes the arms kind of come out too wide. We can hold the block, or if you've got, that's a brick, you can hold a block which is a bit wider, or a wide book, so that you can't let your arms drift out. And you can start to work that so that you gradually make that block smaller, holding it in different positions, so eventually to work more through the upper back, you can have palms together. Okay, so it is a strong pose, not recommended for pregnancy. I wouldn't do it if I had high blood pressure, heart issues, dizziness, but we can adapt it. So if you imagine just taking your feet away from the wall and just bending the knees and just easing your hips to rest on the wall there. So it's very similar to what we did sitting there. We can keep the hands resting on the hips. We can have that little bit of a coming forward position, which would be the true Uttanasana, or we can work with bringing your upper body onto the wall. So you're starting to work your quad muscles, you're strengthening there. And the weight in all of those is really rooting down through the feet. So key points are your feet looking forward, your knees forward, not coming together, not trying so hard and making them turn outwards either. Keeping the hips kind of, they're more or less over your heels, aren't they? They're not going a long way back, they're just coming down. Just picture yourself on a bar stool. Your tailbone tucked under, your tummy lifted, your heart lifted, and making sure your arms are at the right level. And once you feel comfortable with that, as long as there's no reason why you can't, so neck issues, you can look up at the thumbs as well to increase that open space. Okay, so that's Uttanasana, called the chair pose for obvious reasons, and it's sometimes called fierce pose. So that warms our legs up nicely for Garudasana, which is the eagle pose. I've been asked to do this. And this is really nice for countering when we've done a lot of open position. So let's say we've done our triangles or our warriors or our side angle poses. We've got a lot of space opened up, which is excellent. But this is really nice as a counter movement, closing in on yourself. And because it's a balance and because it brings us back to centre, it's a very earthing, grounding, connecting movement too. So very, very useful. Again, it works a lot through the feet. You could be standing just on one foot, so you're really working the foot muscles, the ankle, the calf, quads, thighs, the buttocks. Again, really, really good as a stabiliser for hips. It's not recommended though if you've had a hip replacement. So you've probably been told in that instance not to cross the legs over. So we would have to do, the upper body would be fine, but we would just maybe just bring your foot one in front of the other, or if you're allowed to cross the ankles, you could cross the ankles. You also need to take care with the knees as well because of this crossing over of the legs. So again, you might be better just to cross one ankle in front of the other. You're still strengthening that standing leg. you'd want to keep the hips level in that case. So there is always a way around it. Another way to do that, again, not if you've had the hip replacement and you have the type that means you can't cross over your thighs there. But if you are allowed to cross your thighs, you could sit and then do the upper body. Okay, so there's always a way around it, isn't there? So for this one then, we begin with the feet hip distance apart. We're going to stand on the right leg first. And we're going to step the left foot out a little bit. Take a nice deep breath in and breathe out, bend the knees. So we've got that same principle that your knees stay behind your toes. So there's weight through your heels. So by that, I don't mean lift your balls of feet or lift your toes. The whole foot is anchored. So you're pushing down in the little toe, pushing down in the big toe, but the weight is through the heels rather than that rocking forward on the balls of your feet. So you're kind of almost leaning back. So you feel that power in the right leg. And we're going to bring the left leg over. So you want to bring that left leg up as high as you can to facilitate that crossing over. And that right knee remains bent. So we begin feet apart. Bend the knees, weight through the heels. By doing that, I can feel Uddiyana Bandha activating as well. So you'll be working through the core for stability. We'll lift the left leg as high as we can and cross it over. Now it's good if you've got something like a piece of card or something. And as you cross over, catch that piece of card between your thighs. Because what often happens in this one, people do more of a that position, more like a lotus position. And we want to, one of the benefits of this is that squeezing of the thighs together. So if you put something there that can't fall apart, that's going to really make you squeeze. Okay, so try that again. Let me do the other leg there. I'm getting a little bit out of balance. So we bend the knees, take the leg over as high as you can and cross over. Okay, so we've mentioned some people have knee issues. What we could do in that instance is when we lift the leg up high and plonk it down, just keep the toes of that non-supporting foot on the floor. So that's just going to help you to stabilise. And I think while I'm talking, I might have to just stay with that because otherwise I'm just going to wobble over. So we lift the leg as high as we can, squeeze the thighs together, squeeze that piece of cardboard, and we can keep the toes on the floor. Or I'll cheat here and hold the wall. When you bend the knees, you take the leg over, you can push that heel away. That will help to stabilise. So you'll see that you're sitting down the way that you were in your Uttanasana, your chair pose. So again, you're not going to let your knees rock forward over the balls of the feet. So you're going to keep trying to keep your heels taking most of the weight. So we can do that with your bottom when you bend your knees. That takes your hips to the wall just to help with that stability and feel that sense of position. And then we have the toes on the floor if need be. If your legs are long enough, when we come up and over, we can wrap the toes around the back of your calf muscle. What did I tell you? Okay. So that means then we twist a little bit as we do that. So we need to work towards undoing that twist, bringing the pelvis forward. So this leg position here, this represents the nest, your stable place. Because the posture called Garudasana, Garuda is the king of the birds, he's an eagle. So that you're creating the firm foundation that he sits on, that lovely big nest. Imagine that eagle's nest there. So maybe just play around only doing the legs a few times. If you've got the knee problem, I wouldn't take the toes around the back of the calf. And we can keep the hands on the hips and keep squeezing the thighs. And try to avoid your body wanting to come forward. Try to keep that lift through the chest. Weight through the heels will assist that. And that gentle lift through the tummy, which does happen automatically. So this works also the upper body. So it's a good way to open out the rhomboid muscles, the muscles between your shoulder blades that work your scapula, your wings. I can't remember the layman term for it, sorry, shoulder blades. Yeah, so they work that area. So they're going to really open up in this position. So you could warm up a few times by just really squeezing the shoulder blades together and then giving yourself a nice hug. And just keep swapping which arm flows on top. And then those that feel okay, so obviously not if you've got shoulder problems, but we would reach the arms forward and we would take the right arm on top, bend the left elbow, and we'd bring either the backs of the hands together, or if your arms are long enough, we can bring the palms together. And if that feels difficult, you can use a strap. So you hold the strap, obviously, cross the arm over, and then take hold of it where you can. So then you're still getting that lovely space between the shoulder blades. Another one of my favourites. And then obviously you'll need to work the opposite side. So just release it. Cross the other side, left arm on top, bend the elbows. Backs of the hands together or palms together. And in time you might even be able to link your fingers. And in that position, we want to be able to draw the elbows down. We don't want anything hunching up. We'll draw the elbows down. So you really feel that nice space through the chest. While you've got 2 feet on the floor, you could just give those rhomboids a massage. So you're just lifting the elbows on the breath in and drawing them down on the breath out. And then you just want to be steady. So Garud can also translate as stable. And we need that steadiness to hold the balance. So we're looking directly ahead, so eagle-eyed viewing. Okay, and then when you feel confident of both sides of the body, the upper body and the lower body, oh, I'm just getting a lovely yoga rush now, a lovely nice feeling. So we start, I'll do the left leg supporting this time, bending the knees with the legs just a little bit apart, weight back through the heels, knees behind the toes, lifting your leg as high as possible, cross it over, squeeze the thighs together, with the option of bringing your toes around your calf. You need long legs for that, so it isn't everybody that can do this. Hands can stay on the hips, or we take the arms wide, then bring the right arm on top, bend the left elbow, and come into the full pose. Just hold it for as long as you're comfy. We've got that lovely, lovely glow down the legs. We need to balance it out now, don't we? You might be holding it longer than me. Okay, and roll your shoulders And that's a really nice way. It really works all the buttocks and everything and brings us in, and we really have to concentrate to come into that balance. So that was the Uttanasana and the chair pose, and Garudasana, the eagle pose. So we're coming down to the ground then. We're coming into the tortoise pose, which is all about releasing the hips. So we need definitely to have done some hip warm-up work before attempting this. And I would suggest if you have knee issues, work with the modification as I showed you, lying on your back as an alternative. Another alternative or way to warm up into this is to come into squashed frog, as I call it. Big toes together, knees apart. I think its official term is probably diamond shape. Big toes together, knees apart, and then just flowing down. Because you want to work on the hips, it's more important to get your bottom back to your heels, which some people struggle with. So we could support ourselves with the chest, under the chest, put some blocks under the chest or under the head so that we can get the bottom down. Because if the hips are tight, and I ask you to take your head to the floor, we're going to get this position. So we won't get the work in the hips. But giving yourself a good firm support there under the head will assist bringing the bottom down. Work in the hips. Again, not really a very nice one for anybody with knee troubles. So if you remember, the first warm-up that we did was with proper support, opening out this way. You could pop your support under your knees. Okay, so to work with this, you might want to come on to your block. So that's the smaller or the thinner edge yoga prop. You can also use a firm book or firm cushion. When we come onto that, we don't sit on it like a chair. We sit back on it. We shuffle forward, so we're barely on it. But that helps to bring the angle of your pelvis forward. So we can then release the hips and the knees will fall more comfortably towards the floor. But again, you might need to put a block under your knee or a pillow. And then we'll bring the soles of the feet together and we'll hold the ankles or the feet and we'll just take a few of those nice steady butterfly movements. Lifting the knees as we inhale, allowing the knees to sink down as we exhale. Okay, and if you don't need the block, then slide that away. But obviously it's nice to play with props and just feel the difference, see if it's working for you. Okay, so we can keep a pile of other blocks close by because we might need those in this position. So this is going to be enough for a lot of people. Nice way to sit in the evenings. Just work through the hips. You could have your back against the wall if you find it pulling your back. And you don't have to have your heels all the way close to your bottom. You can take your feet a little bit further apart if you wish. And then we just can think about just easing forward. And as you do that, your elbows kind of automatically bend and come into pushing your legs further away from each other. So you've got the soles together and you're just using your elbows to lever your legs a little bit closer to the floor. So really nice for the abductor muscles and tendons deep within the groin. Okay, and some people are really happy just to ease forward into this. So you've got a little curve of the back. So that would be a nice modification of tortoise. Tortoise is coming in on yourself And your back represents the tortoise shell, it's your protection. So if you're feeling vulnerable, this is a nice position as long as you're comfy with it. And this is where your blocks come in. So you could bring your head to rest on the block or the book. And over time you could make the block come lower. So that helps to take the strain out of the neck. But it also has another benefit that if you've got something firm where the third eye is, so pressing against the third eye, that can really, really help to mentally draw it in. So that might be something to try even if you don't physically need a block. Put something there to catch your third eye, rest your third eye upon, and help to bring your awareness in. Okay, so remember you're working in stages. It might take you several weeks to get to this level, and that's right for you, so don't worry. Some of you people who have asked me for this are already probably beyond what I'm physically able to do as well, so we'll just do what we can do. So if we want to go to the next bit then, we keep the soles of the feet together so the knees flop out, and we're sliding the hands under that space under your knees and bringing your hands around then to rest on top of your feet. So you can bring your feet away from your bottom. You can slide your bottom back a little bit and we can take that rest. So this is the tortoise. Again, we could rest the forehead on the block. There's no strain in the neck and we've got that third eye involvement. Remember, you can still be on with your bottom on a block. And if you struggle to get the soles together, you can place the block between your feet. So it just means you don't have to work quite so hard on the hips. Okay. And then over time, which isn't a pose that I'm able to do, but I can give you the gist of it. Over time, you can start to take your arms outwards. So your arms are still under your legs, but your arms will eventually come out wider, kind of the tortoise flippers, tertial flippers. And you're thinking about getting your breastbone down towards the floor. So this is as far as I am able to get. But what we can do in that case for us tighter people, we can pile blocks up, supports up, until we reach a point where we can get that support. So we can come forward and just rest. That's really nice. So you just have to play around with the equipment that you have to find what you can do. I'll say people that want to go that bit further, you're straightening your arms out under your legs. Another way that you could do this if you found this too intense is just bring your bolster, but you've got straight legs, so your bolster is between your legs. And again, you can make as many piles of equipment as need be to be able to ease forward. And over time, this will stretch your inner thighs and take some of that tension out the hips. We don't want the chin sticking forward. Okay. So what you just do is just keep on, over the next few weeks of practice, gradually taking your blocks away. Slowly progressing. Okay. You need to engage your core to bring yourself back up as well from that pose. And then as a counter to this, because we've been really, really open out in the hips, we bring the knees back together. So you could just sway side to side. But after that, I think your back maybe just needs a rest. So you could come down into semi-supine. Give yourself a few moments just to allow your small of your back to drop down into the floor. You've been bending forward. Just give yourself a few moments there. And when your back is down on the floor, just bring your knees in. I would suggest just one leg. So this is helping to close down your hip again. Bring your hip bone back into alignment. So this is Apanasana. So just bringing one knee in to press against your belly. Remember to push your heel away as well to keep your knees stable. And then obviously you do the other one. So you're closing the hips down, bringing them back into stability. And you could, if you wanted, complete the sequence by coming into your supine basic twist. So knees together, just take your knees to the right and your head to the left. Arm really is at shoulder level. I'm just taking it out the way for our visibility, but wants to be here. So twisting is a nice way to finish any sequence that you do. Okay. So some quite strong poses there, but adaptations to make them a bit more accessible for all of us. And I hope you enjoy. And if I could anything else I can do to help, just please do let me know. I love getting the requests. So have a fabulous evening, and I will see you tomorrow. Thank you. Namaste.